You want to start with sharing some information about your personal background and how Infisical got started?
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. So my name's Tony. I'm one of the co-founders of Infisical. I work mainly on the engineering, like product and backend side of things. Fairly young. I just graduated last May, actually. So did 4 years undergrad and then topped it off with a master's in CS. Coincidentally, that's also where I met kind of both of my co-founders. So one of them, my dual, I had met, like 5 years back. So we had been working on a lot of different startup attempts and side projects over the years, and we can also like go into that if you want as well. But Infisical is like the culmination of like so many years of just like trying out different things, failing, learning along the way. So did that with my dual for like 4 or 5 years, and then during this last year doing my master's, I met Vlad as well. And so, the three of us got together and, we together created an idea called Olage. It was like an audio social network idea, applied to YC, got rejected the first time. And then we decided to give this kind of like one more shot after graduating. So gave it one more shot, ran into this idea Infisical, which was inspired from our previous ideas. So we actually ran into a problem related to managing secrets, these different like environment variable configurations while building Olage. And so kind of because of that, the idea of Infisical was born. And then applied to YC, got in, and then things just kind of took off from there. And we can kind of start taking apart that story as well. There's like a lot of different pieces.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing this background, first of all. And let me ask, at what point did you decide to open source this new product you were building?
So it actually wasn't open source since the beginning. So when we started Infisical, it was actually closed source for about 2 months. So it was closed source for 2 months. The MVP was actually built out in 2 weeks. I think we hacked it together pretty fast, but then we quickly realized towards the end of those 2 months that just there wasn't enough demand for it, to be honest. We tried to go out there and show it to different companies, developers, and it just wasn't getting as much interest as we thought. And so open sourcing was, actually was not supposed to happen initially. And so for us, it was kind of like either we needed to do something different, basically. And, when we thought about what it is that we could do different, one of those things was like, well, have you guys considered the open source route? That's like something that we've seen a lot of companies do. And we were also inspired by a lot of other YC companies too. So, for instance, like take like Chatwood or PostHog, like all of these folks are guys that we ended up talking to get their advice and perspective before actually even deciding to open source ourselves. And so once we talked to the open source community and we reasoned through it amongst ourselves, we felt like this was could work. Like let's give this a shot. This open core model seems promising. It seems like there are a lot of companies and clearly proven companies like GitLab, huge companies that operate on this model, right? It's not something like I would say like traditional as like a regular like B2B SaaS company, but definitely something different. But we were willing to experiment with it at that point in time. Yeah. So 2-3 months in, we just decided to open source it basically. And that meant, making our entire code base that we'd worked on up until then public and putting it up on Reddit. And so we put it up on like 3-4 different like subreddits, and all of a sudden overnight, to be honest, this thing blew up. So like within 3 days, this it had crossed like 1,000 stars on GitHub within like three days or something like that. Like this thing was shared from Reddit to different newsletters. It was like pretty crazy. And so I kind of at that point we figured like, okay, this is really interesting. So like this was totally not supposed to happen. Like we expected maximum maybe 200-300 stars, but 1,000 plus in like 3-4 days, we're like, okay, like we're going all in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so the experiment worked. That roll of the dice worked. This is incredible. Thank you for sharing this. And I saw also that around 4 months ago you also launched on Hacker News, which led to even more growth. Would you like to talk about this?
Yeah, we had a few Hacker News launches, I'd say. So
Mhm.
even before the launch that you saw, I believe we had two other. We did it in the form of show HNs. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Hacker News definitely helped a lot. Huge, pretty big contributing factor. I wouldn't say it was like the leading factor for our growth. It's our growth is kind of the combination of so many different avenues, like I mentioned. Hacker News is one of them. The other consistent one that I mentioned, after trying Reddit that first time
Mhm.
around and it seemed to work, that's one that we've also kind of consistently gone back to launch over and over again as well.
Awesome. And to what extent did the product fundamentally change, if at all, when you also open source it? Because the reception from developers clearly changed.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say like the product changed a lot, right? I mean, like more specifically, I think it really evolved in the direction of what people wanted it to become, right? And that's like one of the beautiful things of open source. There's so many beautiful things about open source. But one of those things is the fact that you're able to build a community, right? And so in our case, like right now, we have a community that we've built up to like 330 plus people. We've had like 60 contributors to date, help with the source code. And so we get a lot of, and outside of that, we get people just randomly on the internet posting GitHub issues. And, we're able to collect all that feedback from all these different parties, these different sources. And we're able to also kind of tally up like, okay, like we think like this feature has been requested more than something else, and like kind of when we analyze all the feedback we get, that really helps paint the roadmap that we have going forward. And that roadmap that we have actually published on our landing page as well. So if you go there, there's like this section where we break it down month by month, like these are the different things that we're going to do, that we've done and that we're going to do within the following months. And once again, all of that is just a collection of us analyzing all the feedback that we've received.
Amazing, amazing. And would you say it got at all overwhelming throughout this process with all this demand, all this interest, the community growing? How have you navigated it? Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's been overwhelming. I think it just kind of naturally
Mhm.
grew into what it is today. So, it's been like 5, 6 months or something of since the time that we open sourced. So, of course, we've built up a lot more experience with how to manage and
Mhm.
talk to different members of our community. Just like all these different tasks that we have to do on a daily basis. We've initially uh, we didn't know how to operate like a open core model, right? But over time, you gain experience, and certainly towards like now, we're a lot more comfortable with it.
Some point, early or later, you need to figure out monetization. And I see that you've already taken steps in that direction. There's a pricing page that is very clear cut. Would you like to discuss this a little? Maybe share a piece of advice and how you navigated it? Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about our monetization as well first. Um, Yeah, so this follows from a lot of other open core companies, pretty standard. But the way we think about it is in terms of two streams, right? So you have one is people using our Infisical cloud product. So that's the hosted or managed solution essentially. So that would be basically people going onto our website, making an account, and just using it there. And then the second stream that we think of that branches off is the self-hosted side. So, apart from our managed solution, there are people that actually download it back. And because obviously we're in the business of storing these very sensitive credentials, it makes sense for a lot of people to want to, host our technology on their own infrastructure and deal with their own sensitive information. So, so we have hosted cloud, and then we have self-hosted as the branch. Um, if you zoom into cloud, then we have different tiers.
Mhm.
So we have like a free tier that's free for up to, I believe it's 5 people right now. So we think about it, we charge on like a per user per month basis. So we have like a free tier, and our goal, of course, is to make this platform free for individuals and small teams, and as other open core companies, basically, you want to ideally charge and make money off of enterprise much more. Yeah. And so, then we have like a systematic kind of ladder that moves up from that free tier that I talked about into kind of more paid tiers, and you start to move into kind of bigger teams, and then finally like towards enterprise. Yeah. And then for self-hosted, you can use it like also for free, or you can also buy an enterprise license as well. It's something that we're still tweaking right now, to be honest, because Infisical is still a fairly new product on the market right now, and there's just so many things to do. And honestly, we don't have enough manpower right now to tackle all the different initiatives. But monetization and pricing is kind of one of those things that's on our list, in addition to all the other engineering things that people are requesting right now.
Absolutely, and I think it makes a lot of sense already. Actually, it's looking really good and clean. And so now, in terms of bandwidth requirements, potentially growing the team and supporting that effort with funding, would you like to talk about these topics at all?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is something that we've given some thought to. So right now, as it stands, it's just the three of us working on this full time. And of course, we have our community of different contributors working on this as well. So at any given time, I'd say there are about like 10 or more, or I'd say like around 10 contributors that are actively kind of working. We've had 60 in total since the beginning, but in terms of like active right now, approximately like another 10 people. But yeah, we've thought about hiring. We just completed our fundraise recently. So before, that's not something that we had the capability to do, right? This is made possible, of course. So we've been thinking about it, but right now we're just kind of trying to stay lean. So
Mhm.
just us three, and we're thinking hire slowly, basically. But like having a small team is actually very nice at this stage. So it allows you to really stay lean and move really quickly. So sometimes, some people say, um, the more people you have in your team, it's like a larger ship, and it's actually kind of harder to steer a larger ship. So right now, it's especially in such early stages as in physical, I think it makes a lot of sense for us to stay lean right now, and kind of keep like a low burn, and if talking about hiring, kind of like slowly hire, but definitely not do something like hire a lot immediately. That's definitely out of question.
Absolutely, I agree 100% with the approach. I love the clarity you have on this topic, and best of luck moving forward with this. This is a great approach right now. What would be the next milestone for the team?
The next milestones. I think we think about these milestones in terms of just these kind of like gradual sprints. So as you can see, like on our roadmap, we have a lot of different features ahead. So I can talk about like kind of more broadly. I think we're trying to, I would say a big initiative is to increase adoption of Infisical. And there's so many ways to do that that are currently, I wouldn't say untapped. Yeah, I guess kind of untapped, I would say. For instance, currently we don't offer that many ways to self-host in physical. So we need, if we want more people using in physical, we have to start offering more ways to self-host in physical across like every single cloud, for instance. And so, you want one-click deploys, you want an easy way for people to use the product. We also currently don't support different SDKs.
Mhm.
So for people to be able to connect their apps and pull secrets from Infisical into their apps, we have one like it's like a primitive Node SDK, but we're lacking so many other like Python, Go, Ruby, like every other language ever. Basically, we're missing all of those SDKs. Now, there's like other ways that people use to fetch their secrets into their applications, but I guess like what I'm trying to say is that we're still so early in this journey to, I think, make Infisical significantly more accessible to everyone. And that's something that we definitely want to target across like a whole range of initiatives that you can see on our roadmap in the next like 6 months.
That's well said. That's awesome. Thanks for the answer here. And could you highlight maybe any surprises that you've had so far within open source?
Any surprises? The whole thing was a surprise. Just like I think the traction, the contributors, everything was a surprise. Like the story with the first contributors is also like really interesting too. It's we put it out there, within the first few weeks. Our first contributor is actually, I want to say it's like a 15-year-old from Korea. Received a DM basically that said like, hey, your guys, this platform is like really interesting, but it's only in English. And so, I'd love to like sit down and translate the entire thing to Korean. Really, like you'll do that? Had it translated to Korean, and ever since now, Infisical is available in like French, like in like at least I want to like at least like six other languages. So yeah, that's kind of the story of the first contributor, and then from there it's just really awesome to see people just kind of funneling in and contributing all sorts of things, and from smaller things like translations to much more functional things as well. Like you might have contributors that, at least in our case, and we have one contributor named Aki that contributed like redesigned basically every single component on the platform. So, like we did not have a systematic like component like design system in place. And this guy went in and created like a whole set of like, here are all the buttons, the secondary buttons, the input fields, the select field, like, this is what a card, what a pop-up will look like. He just re-implemented the entire standardized design system for us. And so, it just comes to show, I think, how powerful open source is, in terms of getting feedback, as well as, you have like collective power of so many contributors, everyone kind of coming together for a greater cause to create something amazing.
Absolutely, and that's part of the motivation, as well as of course learning and creating these relationships. I mean, why do you think people contribute to open source and to a new project like Infisical?
Well, I think there are a lot of different reasons why people contribute, right? And this is like something I think I ask contributors as well. So like we schedule these different code walkthroughs for contributors. So I get a chance to actually Zoom and meet with a lot of the contributors before they start contributing. And these are some of the questions that I ask, right? As well as like, how did you find Infisical and such. But like some people do it just because they love contributing. Like they just love they just do it because other people do it to gain like learning experience. So like there's one contributor that I work with right now, for instance, who is a student right now in college, like a second year, and they have like experience in the school academic setting, writing different programming functions and stuff, but not as much in terms of actually shipping like production software, let's say, to real users and stuff. And so part of their motivation as well is to actually like partake in a real project that's being used by real people, and learn all the different aspects. And they get to do like, and we're super flexible too, so they get to contribute anywhere, like whether it be, some people want to do backend, and then sometimes it's like, for instance, this guy's like, he was working on backend stuff and now he wants to transition over to front end. We're like, cool, yeah, like, go for it. And the whole time we also like advise and we give them tips and stuff as well. And so learning experience is like another big part of it too. So I think people really come in for a lot of different reasons.
And that's a highlight here. I mean, I think there's a lot more room for this to become, for this to be a more usual phenomenon, college students contributing to open source. Because as you said, like, what are the chances they have for shipping, production software?
Mm-hmm.
At best, the summer internship with like a small, scrappy startup, right? So that's, I mean,
right. And the thing is, they might be confined to like one small function, for instance. But in our case, it's like you come to us and we're like, here's a whole list of things, like pretty much like look at all of these GitHub issues. And it's like outside of these GitHub issues, like you can pick out an item from a roadmap or these other 5 different things that we can like propose as well. And so it's like so flexible and it's awesome, you know, like there's someone working on like a new like authentication mode. There's like I said, it's just like so so diverse.
And outside of people and students around the world, you know, discovering themselves in physical and contributing, have you at all tried to say, you know, share some opportunities or the project with students at your alma mater, or you know, help with that sort of you know, getting spreading the word, or not at the moment? It's not something you tried.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, for example, you know, basically students back where you guys started, right? Like, did you ever say a message?
Like getting them involved in.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever try that
uh,
yet?
I haven't tried that yet. To be honest, I haven't tried that yet. Yeah. We've just had like such an influx of a lot of different people from
Right.
the internet, to be honest. So
Yes.
it's, you know, we've already had quite a lot on our plate. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And you
But
said,
that would be cool.
yeah, right. That would be cool actually. And you said it's still like 3 people on the team. I understand it's challenging, but what would you say? Like you already mentioned a few people before. When starting and even right now, who are the people in the ecosystem that you oftentimes look towards for advice, or you might check out a talk of theirs, or maybe a favorite product in open source? Yeah.
You know, I'd say YC definitely has been super useful, just as like general like startup advice and guidance. In terms of open source specifically, I would say that we do take some inspiration from different companies, as you say. So like Posthog is obviously one of our favorites, that I previously mentioned as well. I think uh, at least in that case, it's like we're inspired by their design. It's like
Mm-hmm.
super cute, like hedgehog design. If you look at their landing page, it's awesome, right?
Yes.
It's like it stands out. It's insane. So like our landing page
I
definitely
think it
takes
also
some
stands out.
inspiration.
It definitely
Yeah,
also.
it takes some inspiration from a lot of different companies, but at least, you know, I can definitely tie like the post hog side of things to that. But you know,
Yeah,
they're great. Like you know, we looked at a lot of different companies, honestly. Like Payload CMS is also really cool. He also gave us tips as well. Airbyte is also one that we feel inspired by too. There's honestly a lot of, I'd say, just like a lot of different companies where we take just bits of inspiration from everywhere.
exactly. And it's always refreshing hearing that these founders, despite how busy they are, they always chat up with other founders, helping them out. So I always really love hearing this. And back to your landing page, where again your design is super fresh. Like with my co-founder, we love it. With Zaf, do you guys at all get together? Do you work together in person? People traveling now? How does that look like?
Um, so Vlad and I, we were living together before. Now it's like a little bit more remote now. So I'd say for this year, so there's gonna be like some remote aspect, but definitely in the future. I think that in person would probably be preferable, though. You know, I would say that from what I've seen from a lot of other companies now, so GitLab included. GitLab or Coinbase is not open source, but just like another example of companies, I think, going more and more remote. So in my case, I'm remote right now. And it's actually worked out really nicely. It's like, contrary to what some people might think, it's actually quite productive. It's like, let's say, like while some other people sleep, then you have this like total concentration time to do amazing work and programming and everything, and then you can like sync up and sync up at the end of the day or something like that. So I think it really depends on your function as well. In my case, because I work so much on like the engineering backend side of things, I don't have to meet, let's say, like customers or something as much as Vlad, let's say. So because I spend so much time actually developing the product, it actually benefits me to have this period of isolation.
So yeah, I agree with it.
Context switching sucks. Like
Right?
context switching is very annoying. I think that's like one of the number one like enemies for engineers. So
And for the non-technical co-founders listening, please let your co-founders do their work and don't ask
exactly,
for like the smallest
exactly.
thing. Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Something I haven't tried asking before, but I'm curious in this case. Is there anything you could share about, the choices you made in your tech stack, the technologies you used, maybe hard decision you had to make? Yeah.
Um, yeah. So this won't be like highly this will not be a highly technical answer. This will just be
Sure.
very direct. I think that you should use, especially if you're building a startup, you're just starting out and you're hacking together an MVP, for instance. You should use the tech stack that you're most familiar with and that you can build the fastest with, you know. And that means that like you don't need to build the thing in Rust, like you don't need to build it in Rust. Like they want like highly efficient pipelines and code, but that's not what matters at this stage, right? So to other founders, people starting out, just use the tech stack that you're most comfortable with, that you can kind of expedite through and build as fast as you can, because your goal is to build out an MVP and test out the hypothesis, right? In our case, we built the MVP in 2 weeks. And like that was only possible because we use the tech stack that we do, which is like we use like MongoDB and Express. Nothing fancy, but it's the thing that allowed us to move quickly, which is what matters right now. And I think that in the future you can always readjust that, right? So
That's
yeah.
excellent advice. Thank you so much for highlighting this. Is excellent advice, and applies to a lot of people right now. Any other snippets, lessons learned, or maybe a mistake to avoid from the time Infisical has been around? Yeah. Anything that might come to mind? I don't know. Something like yeah.
So a lot of people we saw ended up pivoting a lot. Um, Pivoting can be good, right? There's like a lot of companies that pivoted into ideas that worked, but there's this concept called like pivot hell, where people get stuck into just kind of like they try something, it doesn't work, they change their idea like really kind of impulsively, and you end up stuck in this kind of like pivot hell, which some founders get stuck in. For us, we were lucky, so um, Infisical hasn't changed in terms of the core idea itself around secret management platform. Hasn't changed for since we started, basically. Whereas we saw a lot of people change their ideas a lot. Yeah. Yeah, that's not, once again, that's not to say that changing your idea is bad for founders. It's just that just don't get stuck in pivot hell, because sometimes that's not great.
You already said that the team is remote right now. Sometimes you get together. Are you doing any traveling yourself in the near future? Maybe Vlad does more, but what do you have in the works?
So not traveling like too frequently, but definitely trying to use this year so as an opportunity, I think, to travel. Yeah. No, I think it's nice that like for anyone operating like a software company, especially, right, compared to some other industries and technologies out there. I think it's very nice. You have the chance to be able to work remotely. So that's like an option on your plate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, for me, I think that I am going to experiment with this traveling a little this year. Not overly frequently, but yeah, I mean, maybe someplace in Europe would be interesting.
Other founders starting up or students, maybe reaching out.
Of
Um,
course.
your advice?
Of course. Like I think that's one of the things I'm also really passionate about. It's like when we were starting out, there was one founder that we reached out to that we didn't think would like answer, and they actually like answered and they helped. And to us, like, it made a really big difference. And so I think paving the way forward to other people and just in general being nice to other people and helping out is always good.
Absolutely.
So
And
that's something I strive to do. Yeah.
that's awesome. So like, what would be the best place for someone to reach you? Are you active on Twitter or by email?
Yeah, you can hit me up on Twitter, dangtony98. You can also join the Slack channel as well. I'm on there 24/7. I mean, last thought would just be like, believe in yourself and you can do it. It's I don't know. I just feel like having graduated from college like quite recently, I would say that from what I observed, I didn't think there were enough people that were as serious about entrepreneurship and startups as a possible career path. And sometimes like it takes talking to more other founders and being exposed to that community more to realize like there are really people out there that are building awesome stuff, are building things and making careers out of startups. So I would really encourage more people to believe in themselves. If that's the path that they want to do, then go for it.